Good evening, everybody. This is Casper from the Tropical Weather Threat Society bringing you our evening update regarding Tropical Storm Chantal. We now have our third named storm in the Atlantic Basin. Taking a quick look at its mesoscale satellite view, we note that the center of circulation or the surface rotation is very, very well displaced from the mid-level circulation and where a lot of this convective activity is currently taking place. And I am going to real quick kind of go out of order here, and I'm going to jump over to Radar Omega, and I've got this set in the 3D version, so it'll kind of give everybody an idea of the reflectivity and the shower and thunderstorm activity that is currently taking place. This is what we normally see, and I've overlaid the forecast cone with this to kind of highlight and show. Now, mind you, the storm is moving, so it is not here. It's kind of over here just a little bit. It is continuing to move. But all of the convective activity is displaced to the northeast and to the eastern side of this circulation. So it is going to be, there's definitely going to be some rain associated with this. Now, I'm going to switch back over real quick to the browser so this way we can get to the particulars on this. As you can see, Chantal, not located very far off the South Carolina coast, expected to make landfall within the next 24 hours, maybe even as early as late tonight. So as of the 5 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time primary advisory, we are currently located at 31.9 north, 78.7 west. Maximum sustained winds have come up to 45 miles an hour, and it is now moving north at 7 miles an hour. It had been drifting 1-2 mile an hour here and there, but it is finally starting to pick up forward speed. Minimum central pressure is 1,006 millibars or 29.71 inches of mercury. Now, when looking at the public advisory from the National Hurricane Center, we do have watches and warnings in effect. But you want to always scroll down to the area known as hazards affecting land. This will give you your impacts, not just where the storm is going, all of the impacts that are associated with the storm. So our wind tropical storm conditions are expected in the warning area beginning this evening and continuing through Sunday morning. Rainfall. Tropical storm Chantal is expected to produce heavy rainfall across portions of the Carolinas through Monday. Storm total rainfall of 2 to 4 inches with local amounts of up to 6 inches is expected. This rainfall will result in an elevated risk for flash flooding. Currently, there is a slight risk of flash flooding from the Weather Prediction Center, which is a 2 out of 4 on their scale. Storm surge. The combination of storm surge and tide will cause normally dry areas near the coast to be flooded by rising waters moving inland from the shoreline. The water could reach the following heights above ground somewhere in the indicated areas if the peak surge occurs at the time of high tide. From Edisto Beach, South Carolina to Surf City, North Carolina, 1 to 2 feet above dry ground. Tornadoes. Isolated tornadoes are possible tonight and Sunday across parts of eastern South Carolina and eastern North Carolina. And the surf. This is one of the biggest risks that is associated with this is the rip currents. Chantal is expected to bring life-threatening surf and rip currents to portions of the coast from northeastern Florida to the mid-Atlantic states during the next day or so. So now, if we take a look at the key messages, we kind of have gone over all of this with the hazards affecting land in the public advisory. Now, if we take a look at the cone, we'll notice that the cone is kind of bringing it in between Myrtle Beach and Charleston, maybe in the region of the Georgetown, McClellanville area. For those who are really kind of paying attention to this and know the region, I'm kind of watching the Lighthouse Island to see if it goes either to the east or to the west of that. And that's going to kind of be critical for folks up here to the northern region. of the storm, because all of the convective activity is displaced to the east and to the northeast. So, depending on how far it comes in down the coastline in South Carolina, will greatly depend upon the impacts for folks here in eastern South Carolina. North Carolina, you're on the eastern side of it. So, please make preparations for tropical storm conditions as we go forward here. Now, as you can see, we do have a couple of the tropical storm warnings that stretch a little bit to the inland area here into South Carolina, but we do not have a far extensive reach of our warnings to the inland area. One of the reasons that we do not is, let me see here. I know it was in here somewhere. We're expecting, there it is. Rapid weakening is expected after landfall. And this is in the discussion and outlook section of the public advisory. So there it is, right there. Rapid weakening is expected. So let's move along. We have our rainfall forecast. Now, this rainfall forecast is for days 1 and 2. So this is over the next 48 hour period. But we're going to go ahead and pull up the WPC. We'll show the 36-hour period. This is when the bulk of the rain is anticipated to be. 3.2 inches for Myrtle Beach, 1.2 for Wilmington, 2.6 for Florence. And I do not know these little spots of 1.7 and 1.5 right here. But as you can see, a considerable amount of rain falling in a kind of a narrow zone overall speaking. So if we run this forward out to 72, then we will see that the rainfall totals really don't change that much. Other than eastern North Carolina there, as the storm is beginning to exit the region. So a lot of the impacts are going to be over the next 36 hours. And as we could see through the Weather Prediction Center, and this is here with the flash flooding potential from the National Hurricane Center, we have, this is the overall composite, this square, but day 1 through Sunday morning, this area here, highlighted in yellow, is where we have our slight risk, which is a 2 out of 4. The green area is a marginal risk, 1 out of 4. Now, if you notice, Sunday morning through Monday morning, this is when we still have a slight risk for portions of central North Carolina and, kind of in the, I guess, the northeastern part of South Carolina, I guess that's what you'd call that. And then day 3, Monday through Tuesday, we're back down to a marginal risk across the region. Let me move along here. Our rip current. So what I've got here is the composite. We have rip currents for today. Any area located in the red. If you know anybody that is on the beach, or you yourself are going to the beach or planning on going to the beach, stay out of the water. And this is the composite, which also includes tomorrow's forecast. Tomorrow's forecast basically has anywhere from about Myrtle Beach or Georgetown here in South Carolina all the way up the coastline, all of North Carolina, and then starting to get into in and around the Norfolk area there in Virginia, in extreme southeastern Virginia. Folks, if you see these red markings, stay out of the water. It's that simple. And right now we've got a little bit of onshore flow, increasing some rip currents here for today into the coastal Georgia region and the northeastern portions of the Florida Peninsula. So folks, just stay out of the water. It's that simple. Please do not become a statistic. So what I've got here is the tropical storm force wind speed probabilities. Now, as we could see, we're really starting to get into that tropical storm force area here associated with Georgetown heading up towards Myrtle Beach, getting into the 50-60% range. If we come to the 50 knot wind speed, this is 58 mile an hour sustained 1 minute average, we've got a very low 5 to 10% chance. So what we're looking at is the tropical storm winds, not necessarily the damaging tropical storm force winds. The earliest reasonable arrival time of tropical storm force winds will be in a couple hours. The most likely arrival time will be sometime during the overnight hours, maybe getting in and around midnight, give or take a little bit, depending on where you're located. As you could see here with the 2 a.m. line, certainly already encompasses the coastal regions there. So that's why I'm saying maybe around midnight. But the earliest reasonable arrival time will be sometime in and around or just after sunset. Our forecasters' discussion. Now, I'm not going to go through the whole thing here this evening, but what it says here is that the satellite presentation of Chantal has not changed much throughout the day. It is still asymmetrical. It still does not have a vertically stacked profile or infrastructure with its vertical structure is just not there. But the moderate shear that has been affecting Chantal is forecast to decrease some this evening. However, drier mid-level air appears to be entrained into the western part of the circulation. Therefore, only slight strengthening is predicted before Chantal reaches the coast of South Carolina overnight or early Sunday. After landfall, steady weakening should occur, and the system is expected to open up into a trough by Monday. That's key, because if it opens up into a trough, then when it exits the coastline, it will not be able to regenerate. Recent fixes showed that Chantal has begun moving a little faster towards the north, with an initial motion estimate of north at 360 degrees at 6 knots or 7 miles an hour. The track guidance suggests that the storm will turn north-northwestward between a mid to upper level low over the Gulf and a narrow mid-level ridge over the western Atlantic. A turn to the northeast is expected after landfall as Chantal becomes more embedded within the low to mid-level flow around the west side of the ridge. The NHC track forecast lies close to the TVCA multi-model consensus, which is close to the previous NHC forecast. Chantal is expected to remain asymmetric, with its strongest winds and rainfall to the right of the landfall location. As we can see here, and it's kind of as I thought, now the National Hurricane Center has Chantal coming up to a maximum wind speed of around 50 miles an hour, and that's kind of what I was thinking in the beginning, maybe 50, 55, somewhere in that range. The absolute upper maximum top end, I would think, would be 60, and I mean, we're really, really pushing it. Very low probability for that. But 50, yeah, I could see that. Maybe squeeze a 55 out of there, but definitely, I would say it's got a good chance of getting 50. Now, we did have a reconnaissance flight in there earlier. We'll have another one take off later on tonight. As you could see, it did pick up on its track. It had a little bit of an easterly jog. It'll be interesting to see what it finds when it gets back out there. Now, I'm going to refresh this because I want to see if we've updated, and we have. So here we have the official forecast track from the National Hurricane Center and how it has evolved over the last 5 advisories. The lighter colors are the older, darker are the new ones. So as you can see, everything has been kind of adjusting a little bit more and more to the right. So we'll be kind of keeping a watch on this and keeping an eye on this to see exactly how this evolves over the upcoming overnight period until it makes landfall. Now, the TVCN, as what they were calling, and it really doesn't show too much, but here is the TVCN model. And as you can see, it is also, from the lighter colors to the darker colors, been shifting ever so slightly run after run to the east. If we compare that to the HCCA, they are in pretty good agreement with one another. The HCCA has been kind of right on top of this, hasn't really shifted too much run after run. And then again, the official forecast. Now, as far as the intensity goes, the consensus really didn't get it. The HCCA really wasn't there either. They're splitting hairs here. 35 knots, 37.5, 40. So they're not really calling for much at all. The hurricane specific models, the HWRF is calling for right about its max intensity right now, maybe 42, 43 knots, maybe squeeze a 50, 50 mile an hour. HMON, as you can see, really has kind of not really performed that well. I had one spike earlier that would have brought it up to about 50 miles an hour. But since then, the most recent run just kind of had it leveled off and falling apart as it makes landfall. Halves A does wants to bring it up to 50 knots. Now, this is interesting because this would be a 60 mile an hour system. I don't really see that being the case, but again, it is not out of the realm of possibility because Halves B also wants to say a quick overnight shot on approach and maybe reach 50 knots. I do still think that that is a little bit of an overshoot. If you notice from the previous runs, they are trending a little downward. So it Halves A didn't, but Halves B has, same spike, previous run, and then has reduced a little bit. So I'm in line with the National Hurricane Center there, 50, maybe, like I said, squeezing a 55 out of there. I don't think a 60. But now, if we take a look at the spaghetti plots, again, everything is in very good agreement. If it opens up to the trough, when it moves out into the open waters, it'll just be a trough. It won't be a low pressure center, and we won't really have too much to deal with it. Taking a look at the ensembles. Now, the ensembles themselves, they definitely have the area of Chantal here highlighted, but nothing else across the basin over the next 10 days. And if we look at the GEFS, same thing. Has Chantal here, nothing across the basin over the next 10 days. If we take a look at the European AI assisted, Chantal, nothing over the next 10 days. So that should give everybody at least a little bit of reprieve, knowing that when we finally get done with Chantal here within about the next 24 hours, as far as the National Hurricane Center side of it is concerned, there's not going to be much out there following that. Now, what I have here is the probability of tropical depression winds over the next 24 to 72 hours. As you can see, we're definitely looking at winds in greater 20 knots or greater. Now, if we jump this up to the tropical storm force winds, though, and this is sustained winds, not gust, sustained winds. We don't really see a lot for the sustained winds over the next 24 to 72 hours. So even when it comes offshore. Now, keep in mind, this is from 24 hours to 72. Landfall is going to take place within 24 hours. So what we see here, as far as the South Carolina coastline, already represents landfall and degradation and weakening of the surface center. So the winds have already plummeted because of landfall after 24 hours. It's basically giving it a 5 to 10% chance that this will still have tropical storm force winds in 24 hours. So that's not necessarily the case, but I'm watching for the exit point out here off the New England coastline in the North Atlantic, the Northeast, New Jersey, Long Island. May get a little bit of increased wind and swell, especially with some onshore flow as this begins to exit. So it's just something to keep a watch on. Now, the Google DeepMind model, now there's one thing I want everybody to obviously keep an eye on Chantal, but I would like everybody to also do me a favor and keep an eye out here into the Eastern Pacific. because currently we have Invest 96E out there with a 60% chance of development over the next 48 hours and an 80% chance of development over the next 7 days. I've hit play. One. We had one ensemble. Now, I will turn. That was just from the. I'll turn everything else on. And it's the euro. As you can see, the euro is the one that's picking up on it. Not really. Nothing else is really picking up on it. The euro seems to be the driver of that. So, and then here comes another area of interest that has a couple as well. So, it'll be interesting to see exactly how that EastPac system and Invest 96E plays out, because the euro has it, they don't. If it doesn't develop, then that gives that experimental model of the DeepMind a little bit more validity and a little bit more credibility, and maybe becoming a viable resource going forward. I know it's been performing quite well, so we'll have to wait and see. Now, the NOAA blend of models obviously has everything kind of smoothed out here. Over the next 36 hours, it is not as aggressive as what we see with the Weather Prediction Center, but I still wanted to make sure that I kind of highlighted it and then take it out over the next 4 days. Again, this is more smoothed than anything else. So instead of taking like the big areas of like the localized heavier amounts, those have been kind of like smoothed out a little bit to kind of blend in with its surroundings. So definitely want to follow the WPC forecast. And then I'll pop that up over the next 4 days as well there. All right, and of course, our nightly view at our dust model for the beginning part of the year. As you could see, very large plumes still continuing to work its way across the Atlantic, with another plume anticipated to eject from the west coast of Africa, probably in around next week this time, maybe 7-8 days, somewhere in that range, 6-7-8 days, depending on what it does. Now, real quick, I do want to show with Earth Null, we'll get off of the relative humidity and show the wind. I do want to come up to the 500 millibar level, and we will show that the mid-level circulation is still displaced from the surface circulation. So it's certainly not there. The shear value, we're here at about 6 miles up above the atmosphere. The shear values are still quite high, coming in more of a southerly direction than the southwesterly direction that they had, maybe more of a south-southwest today. And that is kind of displacing, that's helped to kind of displace it off to the north and to the east. So again, it's something that we're going to be keeping a watch on as we go forward. All right, I am going to check and see if we have any questions. I don't see any. If you guys do have any questions, please just let me know. I know we've got team members there in chat that will also help answer as well. Now, jumping out to the Eastern Pacific, we do, again, Invest 96E right here, 60% chance of development over the next 48 hours, 80% chance over the next 7 days. We also have another area behind that with a 20% chance of development over the next 7 days, nothing in the next 2. So, again, something to watch and something to monitor. There's the text of it. If we take a look at the satellite view, it does look like there is some rotation and some spin up here. Let me increase the frame so we can get a little bit more of an idea. Well, that was sunlight 8 hours ago. Yeah, I guess so. It's over there. So as you could see, there is some spin and there is some rotation. If I jump back over to Earth Null and we zoom out and we come down, jump down to the surface, as you could see though, it is very broad. It is not a tight circulation. It does not have a lot of tight winds. Or strong winds or a tight vortex associated with it. And if you really, really want to look, that is Flossie. That's old Flossie right there. And then this is Invest 92. And then our other area is still back here associated with, I'll find the right frame here eventually, with this area of clouds and showers and storms. So once this, or kind of, it's really all in here, once that propagates over this way, then it'll have the opportunity to develop in this region, maybe a little bit more back here. But nonetheless, does not look to be much threat to any land going forward. Now, speaking of threat to land, we now have Danas is the name, or Danis, or however they want to pronounce it. We all know around here that I butcher names religiously. So, but we still have Tropical Storm Mun. Never really reached the typhoon status as it was forecast, 50 knots. Maintain its intensity as it gets drug up further up into the latitudes, and then will incur with some colder waters, increased shear, increased dry air, colder temperatures, and die off. Danas, on the other hand, is a different story. This is kind of what I was afraid of. This is what I mentioned yesterday. It gets a little bit too close to Taiwan, and in the circulation, especially on this side, sometimes will have a tendency to kind of drag it back towards the island. And as you can see, that's kind of what it's looking like doing, is to where it drags it back. And when it does that, it then ends up with some significant impacts there to the island of Taiwan. They build different, so I'm not really expecting too much, although landslides, mudslides, and flash flooding are probably going to occur and would more likely occur just due to the fact that the onshore flow there in kind of the eastern side will be exposed of the storm. All right, everybody. Hey, I see Grasshopper. Hi, Grasshopper. I'm checking the chat, and I see somebody. There we go. Hope you're doing good, dear. Oh, and let me jump out. Let me switch this back over to Radar Omega. And we're going to cut this real quick, and we're going to do a little bit of bonus coverage here before I close out for the evening, because we are on our way to Texas. So, as you can see, and I'm sure a lot of folks have heard within the, all over the news, that an area up here, Kerrville, Comfort area, they were impacted by just an unbelievable water rise, a whole bunch of unfortunate missing fatalities, a camp with a bunch of young little girls at it. It's an absolute tragic situation. The Guadalupe River has pretty much overflowed just about everywhere. Currently, we're running 2 flash flood emergencies, one right here. This is north of New Brunswick, south of Saddler, Texas. Running through this area, all of River Road right here has been closed down and evacuated. Everybody has been rushing to higher ground. I do know it's kind of bad in this area. I have not heard of any particular injuries, fatalities, or anything like that associated with this. And then also, if we scroll up here, we will note that, unfortunately, this flash flood emergency has been extended 3 times. And this flash flood emergency is really bad. Has been. They ended up with like 10 to 20 inches of rain. Thankfully, some of the models were showing that we were going to get a reinvigoration of some of the thunderstorm activity that was out there. And I'll run this back, and you will see that there was a lot of thunderstorm activity associated with this, and is now beginning to finally, oh, excuse me, wind down for a little bit, but it's going to come back. Because if you notice, look up here, look to the north. Now, Lori, I know, like I told you earlier, your son is not necessarily involved with this one just yet. But if we take a look at the radar, these showers and thunderstorms are in their developmental phases. All right. And there could be some flash flooding that will be occurring. Obviously, we've got a warning. And just as I say that, this flash flood warning right here was just issued for Southwestern Hamilton, Lampas. I have no idea how to pronounce that. In Mills County in Central Texas until 8:30 Central Daylight Time. I mean, and we're now under a flash flood warning. So just this whole area in Texas has just become an absolute nightmare scenario. And we're talking about all of this area in here. And probably even out further than that. I mean, it's been bad, folks. There's major flooding all over the place, and loss of life, loss of property. It's a mess right now, and they're in scramble mode. One thing I am going to do, I'm gonna jump back over here. We're gonna pull up a model. We're gonna go to the rapid refresh. We're gonna come down to Texas. We're going to take the whole state as a whole. Now, the rapid refresh does not run very, very long into the future. But as we could see, this is the 20Z, and we may... Oh, that's dying out. Hopefully it doesn't. And then here we go again. You could see some of the reinvigoration of the shower and thunderstorm activity overnight. Let's jump into the HRRR. See what that's got to say. Running into the overnight diurnal hours, and then potentially boom, right as we start to get into sunrise again tomorrow morning, take a look, we're blowing up again. So unfortunately, folks, it does not look like this is over with. Kristen, please make sure that you are, please make sure you're staying aware. And you know good and well, I'll drive you crazy with it. I'm keeping a watch on it, for sure. Taking a look at the NAM, really doesn't perform that well. It's doing terrible. Oh, new run coming in. No, I'm not impressed. I'm not impressed at all. Let's go with the FV3. Yep. We end up with that blow up again tomorrow morning as the sun starts to come up. We're starting to get that shower and thunderstorm activity again. So please, folks, please pay attention to your local National Weather Service office. Make sure, if you live in that area, that you have the abilities and the ways to receive warnings issued from your local National Weather Service office, because if a flash flood emergency is issued, you're going to want to know immediately. All right, everybody. Yes, ma'am, we do. And we got your back, Grasshopper. That's our Grasshopper, by the way, Kristen. That's our Grasshopper. She is the reason that we have the little Grasshopper icon and on our countdown screen, just in honor of her there. So... and that Grasshopper will not be removed at all. Ooh. Look. We're starting to lose a little bit of cloud cover, and the center of circulation is exposed right there. There's Chantal right there. That's the center. Right there. That little bitty circle right there. Oh, well, at least we got to see it before the sun goes down. So, yeah, it's confirmed now that this thing is a mess. All right, everybody, I'm going to go ahead and sign off tonight. I do not think that we will be live tomorrow night. I don't believe that Chantal will still be on the board by the time we get to 6 p.m. tomorrow night. Now, if I see some things change or something like that, or we end up with some significant impacts, we'll definitely come live. But I just don't see it. Just folks, make sure that you please stay weather aware. Make sure that you're paying attention to your local National Weather Service office for the latest information, and make sure that you have the abilities to receive warnings if issued. For folks there on the Carolina coastline, stay out of the water. If you go to the beach, there's no need for you to go out into the water. It's going to be raining, it's going to be nasty, and there will be the opportunity for isolated tornadoes, especially coming in off of the water with those stronger storms. Banding and training storms are possible, so please make sure that you do not drive through flooded roadways. Turn around. Don't do it. Just don't. It's that simple. Just don't drive through flooded roadways. I know it's easier said than done. So with that, everybody, we'll talk to you again soon. I don't know exactly when it's going to be. The Global Tropics Hazards Outlook new update will come out on Tuesday, so I'll have that posted to the page, but I'm not 100% sure when our next live is going to be. I don't see anything in the cards unless we get some kind of homegrown system, which I don't even see that in the cards in any time in the near future. So have a wonderful time, everybody, and we'll talk to you again sometime in the near future. Good night.